Hello everyone, I am B.O.B. and welcome to another Minecraft tutorial. And today, upon request, we have a flying machine elevator, and if not for the request, I probably wouldn't have done this elevator. See, these things aren't exactly all that reliable. Sure, it's working fine now, but this is just a single player world. Watch what happens when I go into a multiplayer world. Yeah, and to be honest, I'm lucky I haven't glitched all the way through yet. Of course, you could make it more reliable by just sticking a boat or a minecart on it. Now, to me, that's just rather inconvenient, as, well, you have alternatives like bubble tubes, which are much faster, more reliable, more resource friendly. But I guess there is something in the novelty of having a flying machine elevator. Also, you may want to build something in the nether where bubble tubes aren't exactly a possibility, and I guess, well, yeah, this would be your option there then. Now here I got a very bare bones version of the build, and as you can see here, it's very simple in the redstone even. There's not a whole lot of materials involved, and you're not dealing with any real complicated circuitry. You might have noticed that the machine is actually made out of honey blocks rather than slime, and that's a kind of a key feature. And I got to give a shout out to Cardboard Fish who mentioned this in regards to crop sweepers. That they're actually better built out of honey blocks rather than slime blocks because, well, the honey blocks don't bounce the crops all over the place, whereas slime blocks will send them flying 30 blocks or so. But, upon reading that comment, I realized that the same would be true as far as a player on top of a flying machine. And this would make elevators, of course, well, a lot safer to ride. So anyway, this bare bones version of the machine is what I will be teaching you how to build here today. And towards the end of the video, I'll give you a closer look at my more decorated version, just to give you a better idea of how you might be able to close things in and make it look a little bit nicer. But yeah, let's look into our materials list. Now the materials required for this build you'll see in this chest right here, we're going to need at least one obsidian block. Now this could be substituted for a glazed terracotta block, provided it couldn't be pushed through the floor beneath it or something like that. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and use one obsidian block here. We're going to need at least 2 observers, 8 sticky pistons, 2 regular pistons, 8 honey blocks, and you do want honey blocks here, not slime blocks. You're going to want 2 solid blocks to attach to the platform of this elevator. This is kind of involved in the braking system. Now, they don't have to be the yellow terracotta. I'm just using that because they kind of match the honey blocks a little bit. You could really use whatever block you wanted here, though. This will take about 12 dashes of redstone dust, at least 1 redstone repeater, 2 buttons of your choice. Doesn't really matter what kind of button you use there. Uh, at least 20 pieces of glazed terracotta, and this is just to bridge the gap between your elevator and the floor that it's on. This will take at least 15 structure blocks. This is just to place redstone on, basically. 2 trapdoors also involved in your braking system, and really you only need 1 of those, but it looks weird with only 1. If you're going to be using this in a multiplayer world, you're going to want to ride ride it with a boat or a minecart. Uh, if you're on a single player world, you might be all right, but even if that world is particularly laggy, I'd still recommend a boat or a minecart on top of this thing, just so you're not falling through the blocks and, to your death. Also, for this build, you might want to have some sort of scaffolding, if nothing else, just to line up the build properly. I'm sure you'll have a floor that you'll like to be going to with this elevator already, but it does help to have scaffolding for, well, at least for the build process. Now, as you can see, I actually have 2 different areas outlined for this particular build. Now, the area outlined in smoothstone here is actually for the lower station of this elevator, and that's just a 5x5 area, which is 4 blocks tall. The area outlined in the iron blocks here is for the upper station there, the return station, if you will, and that is actually 6 blocks wide by 7 blocks long, also 4 blocks tall. Now to get started here, I want to come to the back of our 5 by 5 area, and that very center block, I want to come 1 block away from that back border, and that is where I'm going to place my obsidian block. And that's actually going to mark the center of the back block of your elevator here. So let's go ahead and place 2 honey blocks on top of that obsidian block. Uh, one down on top of the block, then one on the face of that. And then we want to come over here beside the obsidian block on the right hand side, and we actually want 2 observers. One's going to be feeding into this honey block here. So let's go ahead and place a temporary block down, and then an observer on top of that temporary block. We can get rid of that temporary, and then place a second observer on top of the first observer, just like that. Now on the opposing side of that honey block, you're going to want a sticky piston facing up, and then on the other honey block right beside that one, you're going to want a regular piston facing up, just like that. And let's go ahead and place 2 honey blocks, one on the face of each of these pistons. And then get down here on the ground, right beside your observers here, and you're actually going to want a regular piston facing downwards. So place that kind of right on the back of your observer, just like that. Now let's come over to the other side of the machine here, and we're going to place a sticky piston facing downwards on the side of this honey block here. So just like that. And this is actually the flying machine portion of it already done. We just kind of need to build our docking stations around it. Now this lower docking station is about as easy as can be. You just come over here and put your back up against those observers there with this honey block to the right side of you. And we want to kind of pillar up with just a temporary block there, and then put 2 sticky pistons on top of that temporary block. We'll get rid of that temporary. And then we just kind of need to put a power source to these pistons, so just put 1 solid block on the back of this lower piston here, and then another solid block to the side of that. We're going to put a dash of redstone dust on top of each of those solid blocks, with another solid block on top of this furthest dash of redstone dust, and that is where we will place our button. And this would be the visible floor that leads up to the elevator. So if you want that to be a specific kind of block, now might be a good time to put that in. Now we just need to put the top layer of our flying machine in. To do that, we just need a T shape with honey blocks, well, kind of an upside down T shape. So we want to put 1, 2, 3 across the front, then 1 in the back in the center, and then we need to get our solid blocks to put into this platform. And with the magic of video editing, I can make them appear in my hotbar, and I'm going to put 1 of those solid blocks in each of these gaps on each side of the elevator here, and that's all going to be part of our braking system. Really only 1 of them is necessary, but I mean it looks weird if you only have like 1 block that isn't really matching up. At least if there's 1 in the back of 1 in each back corner, it looks like it's an intended pattern. Now let's go ahead and bridge the gap around the elevator. That would be in between the elevator and the floor that the elevator is on. We're going to do that part with the glazed terracotta. So just kind of wrap a little ring the whole way around the elevator, any place where it might make contact with that particular floor. Oops. Yeah, right there. And just like that. And we'll kind of have to do the same thing around the top part. If you wanted to wrap the entire elevator shaft in a particular block, it would have to be some form of glazed terracotta. Otherwise, the elevator itself would get hung up on it. So our ground floor station is ready to go. We just need to build the top floor station here, and this is where your scaffolding would come into play. You'd want to scaffold up off of one of these blocks, probably in the back here. It would be the best way to do it. And I'm going to do it off this block here. I'm going to go ahead and just build my scaffolding up as high as I would like my elevator to be. And I would like it to be as high as my elevator over there. So I'm going to go ahead and line that up. So this height looks about right, and of course it's going to be easier for you if you already have the floor in that you're trying to get to. Let me get to the top here, and then I want to put one block just on the inside here, hovering right above my terracotta block on my elevator. And then I actually want to get a trapdoor. And then I want to place that right on top of that hovering piece of scaffolding, and then I'm going to go ahead and uncrouch so I can open that thing up. And we can actually get our scaffolding out of here. We're pretty much done with that. So now that that one little trapdoor is hovering in place, we could actually send our machine up to the top floor to help us line up everything up there. Now once your machine has reached the top floor here, you may want to scaffold back up in order to build portions of this underneath, but I have creative flight, so I'm actually going to just go ahead and take advantage of that. Now what we need to do here is a double piston extender, and the reason we need to do that is to ensure our pistons are not getting hung up on our machine. In order to do that, we want to make sure the double piston extender is at least 2 blocks away from our observers here. So let's go ahead and just place in a couple temporary blocks. So these are going to be blocks of air. This is where we want our double piston extender to actually be setting. This is where we want the back piston of it to actually be setting. So I'm going to use this block, or this piston rather, to build off of. So I'm going to break away these temporaries and go 1, 2, and then 1, 2 on top of that, and let's break that away. So we should have this shape right here. Now we just need to put in a power function for this. Now to do this, we're just going to put in some solid blocks. We're going to start on this backmost piston here, and we're going to put 1, 2, 3 solid blocks along the side of those pistons. We're going to come out 1 block, and then come over 1, 2, 3. Oh, well, oops. I guess it would be 4 blocks. And then 1, 2, 3 blocks towards the center of our machine. Now we can redstone dust this all the way around to this corner right here. Now this is where we're going to need our redstone repeater. We're going to place that in right beside our piston right here. And we want that repeater set to at least 3 ticks. So go ahead, place it down, click it 2 times. And then 1 more dash of redstone dust coming out of that repeater. And then we can come back over here to where we started that redstone line. Put 1 solid block on top of that redstone line, and a button on top of that solid block. And then we just need to kind of close in our gap with terracotta the same way we did below. And of course I did mean the glazed terracotta there, and we could put in our 1 more trapdoor for symmetry's sake and open that thing up. Again, the trapdoors are just kind of the braking system. The flying machine is already at the piston push limit, so 1 block is all it takes to stop it. And, well, the trapdoor serves that purpose without actually blocking a player from passing through. Now from here I could just kind of step back onto the elevator and hit the button. And I'm flying, so I can't actually ride it back down. But here we go. And then just ride it back down to the ground. Again, that would only be that reliable in a single player world like I'm in now. If you want that sort of reliability out of a multiplayer world or a laggy world, you're going to need a boat or a Minecraft. Or a minecart, excuse me. One final note, if you did want to put in some sort of elevator call system for the event that you might have left your elevator on the top floor and now you can't get up there, you could just send a signal via torch tower like this here. You know, you just install a button on the bottom and it sends the redstone signal up. Now, once you got to the top, you would want to make sure your torch at the top was a torch that was turned off most of the time unless you hit the button, but then you just have that torch connect to this redstone line which powers your pistons, and then that way it could call your elevator from below. And then in the reverse, if you wanted to be able to call your elevator from up above, you could just use a torch ladder like this one here. Same sort of scenario, you're just kind of offsetting the blocks here and putting redstone dust on the top in order to power that block and turn off the torch that the dust is on. And here again, when you get to the bottom, you want to make sure that the torch you connect to your call system is turned off at all times unless you hit the button at the top. And yeah, of course, you'd connect that to your redstone line right here. And as promised, here is a closer look at a more decorated version of this elevator. You can see I've kind of closed it all in here, added some stairs and accents to make it look, I don't know, more like it is the bottom of an elevator shaft. Of course, you could close in the elevator shaft all the way, but you would have to use some form of glazed terracotta. And then, of course, the elevator shaft itself would get a little bit dark. You could replace the blocks on the elevator with like glowstone, but I definitely would not recommend that, as it would cause constant lighting updates while moving, more than likely causing you more lag. You could put lighting into the elevator shaft, but you would have to do it one block away from where the flying machine would be passing through. A better look at the top portion. You can see everything fits pretty neatly underneath the floor. There's not a lot to it. There's not a lot to hide. I did kind of decorate a little bit more with some sea lanterns on the top, and of course using stairs and quartz and things for decoration. One thing I did do to make the trapdoor situation not look so weird is put in more trapdoors up front here, but you want them to actually be on the block to the side of the elevator. If I could open that up, you can see it opens that way, and then this way it's not actually sticking to your elevator and breaking the whole thing. But you could still have those trapdoors in the back. It all looks a lot more deliberate that way. And so, my friends, that completes today's tutorial. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you found it helpful, please remember to hit that like button. And if you're interested in seeing more from me, considering that subscribe button as well. I would like to thank each and every one of you for watching and wish you all a wonderful day.